Welcome back to the safe house. All right, we're going to talk about some things here. We're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to start with the border because it seems to be of much controversy and all the deportations that are taking place in the United States right now. So, I'm just going to start off with it is illegal to come into the United States undocumented. Okay, there are different ways to do that, and the vast majority of the people that are coming into the United States are seeking asylum. Okay, so 8 million immigrants have come in to the United States under the Biden administration. I think it's 6.7 million through the southern border. 1.7 are what they call gotaways, undocumented. So when we talk about the undocumented immigrants in the United States, it's not talking about people that are here and have received citizenship or residency. It means that when they came in, if they're going to seek asylum, which is the vast majority of the immigrants coming into the United States are trying to seek asylum. It's not just Mexico. In fact, it's really a relatively small number of Mexicans that come in illegally. It's been reported that people are coming from 140 different countries around the world in the last 4 years specifically under the Biden administration. And so 1.7, it's an estimate, 1.7 million over the course of 4 years have come in undocumented. So the United States has some pretty excellent asylum laws. Okay. Put it simply, they have to either not be able to return, which some countries don't allow you to return when you leave illegally. Evidently, it seems wild. But if you leave undocumented, I'm guessing they don't let you return because they don't know who you are, where you're coming from. But you have to, essentially, it can't be safe for you to return because of discrimination for a multitude of reasons: race, religion, your country's unsafe to live in. Like, Haiti would be a great example. Haiti's in fucking shambles. Okay? Hopefully it's getting better, but Haiti is an extremely hard place to live right now. We're not going to get into why that is right now, but I live on the same island. I live in the Dominican Republic. I know many Haitians. My wife is Haitian. I've met people that grew up in Haiti, that have fled Haiti. And the Dominican Republic does not have the same kind of asylum laws. It's a much smaller country. So the millions of Haitians that come over, it affects the country very differently. Now, I'm going to use this chance to say I'm very sympathetic to immigrants seeking, or refugees, if you will, seeking asylum in the United States. But if you come in to the United States undocumented, that is illegal. So all of this, man, you don't have to spend long on social media to realize that there's a mass deportation going on. And my heart goes out to those people that are just looking for a better life and a better life for their family. The United States has a process that you can go through to do this. I would even be in favor of looking at legislation. The United States has a legislative process. That's how laws are created. It's how you make laws. I would be very interested in legislation that allows law-abiding immigrants without certain criminal records stay in the United States, and a process for them where we're at now. Because the last 4 years under Biden was, in regards to our border and immigration, it was a joke. There wouldn't be millions of immigrants to deport to this degree if it wasn't for the lack of enforcement or lack of enforcing the laws that are in place for immigration. So you can't blame an administration for enforcing the law. If you disagree with the law, if you disagree with the legalities of deporting all of these people, then you have to go through a legislative process to change that law. So calling Trump a racist and you know all the horse shit that's said is really quite silly. It is illegal to come into the United States unless you go through certain legal processes. Furthermore, the 1.7 million people that came in over the course of 4 years between 2020 and 2024, with as easy as it is, with the lax laws, why do you think that they came in undocumented? They're called gotaways. Now, the people that were not, they're like give-ups, I think they call them. They come across the border. They don't head towards a town. They come across the border where it's easy to do so, and there are certain points where the wall has not been finished, and it's harder to finish it now because Biden sold off pennies on the dollar a lot of the equipment to build the wall as a personal fuck you to Trump and a act of sabotage towards his program. You know, maybe some of you are happy about that, maybe some not. But the give-ups don't walk towards a port of entry for legal immigration. They don't walk towards a town to meet up with their conspirators, collaborators on the other side. They walk across the border and they wait for Border Patrol to pick them up and then go be processed so that they can get public funding or get financial aid of some sort and processed to come into the United States. So the gotaways, why do you think that they didn't do that? Why do you think they didn't cross the border and wait for Border Patrol to pick them up so they could be processed into the United States? I can only guess that they've got a criminal record or obviously gang affiliates or smuggling drugs. You know, 50,000 pounds of fentanyl came across the border between the year 2020 and 2024. 50,000 pounds of fentanyl has zero relation or comparison to even heroin or cocaine or marijuana, which marijuana doesn't come across the border hardly anymore. If it does, it's going to Mexico because of the quality. I read an article about that. With the marijuana laws in the United States, there's hardly any reason to smuggle it north across the Mexican border. But fentanyl is so potent that when they sell it by points. Like you buy marijuana by the gram, these are points of a gram. Like heroin, only way more potent, far more deadly. 50,000 pounds, and that's just what they know. That's just what they know about. So, everybody that's up in arms about Trump securing the border, look, I'm certain there are things that Trump is going to do as a president that I disagree with. Okay? If you're waiting for some politician that you agree with 100%, you're either stupid or living in a fantasy land, and I wouldn't hold your breath. I've never met one person on this earth that I completely agree with, particularly when it comes to politicians. But the idea that it's a good idea that we should have a porous border where Border Patrol and local law enforcement have their hands tied behind their back is silly. It's silly. And I've heard people say, all the rhetoric about the illegal immigration and the drugs coming across, that's all just rhetoric and it's not true. That's horseshit. Don't listen to Trump about it. Listen to local law enforcement. Listen to you can't hardly hear Border Patrol talk about it because they've got gags, basically gag orders. But a sheriff in these various different counties on the border, a sheriff does not enforce policy like a police chief does. A police chief is appointed. He's given a job. A sheriff is voted into his office or his position. The sheriff answers to his constituents and the Constitution. His job is not to enforce policy. His job is to protect rights by enforcing laws. Okay? There's a difference. Listen to these mayors, these sheriffs, these governors about the border. It's almost, I would say it's unanimous, but for the sake of being accurate, I will say it's almost unanimous. It is a crisis. Okay? And a president is elected to serve the country in which he's elected. That's not to say that he can't have foreign policy that's good for other countries. But it is true that he is elected to serve the United States first and foremost. And particularly in the climate that the world is in right now, borders are of importance. National security is, to ensure national security, is a president's job. It is the job of elected officials. So, what Trump is doing right now is not racist. He has specifically said in his own words, I have seen it. It won't take long. If you do the right search and not search for, some rhetoric from somebody else's mouth, but if you look, you can find very easily the video of Trump saying, we're not talking about legal immigration. We're not talking about people here legally. We're talking about people here illegally. And in fact, further that search, and you can find video of Obama saying essentially the same things that Trump is saying about the border and immigration. That they're going to go back to Mexico City, get at the end of the line, so that those that are going through the process legally nobody cuts in front of them, and that through a process they can earn citizenship. You know, this is why you have to watch something other than CNN, even MSNBC, or even Fox. I wouldn't really advise anybody to really get their news from any of those sources. You're much better off reading articles, various articles, even independent journalists. I'd be very cautious of anybody saying from an anonymous source. I would take that information and try to cross-reference it from sources that will give some kind of identity. Regardless of what you think about our immigration laws, these are laws. And to somehow chastise law enforcement and or Trump, whether you wanted him for president or not, to chastise him for enforcing laws is just silly. It just makes you look silly. You know, I saw a video and a post saying how the racist and hatred, hate speech and expression of hate since he's been in office and before when he was in office, that somehow that means Trump is racist. Look, for the moron walking down the street chanting about white supremacy, and I do mean a moron, white supremacy is idiotic, okay? But the same constitutional protection that allows that moron to chant white supremacy is the same constitutional protection that allows you to speak out against it. And it's not Trump that has attacked our right to free speech, okay? I'm not going to say it's Democrats, but it has been some on the left that have, in my opinion, jeopardized that. We obviously still have the right to free speech because, spend 3 minutes on social media and you'll realize we all still have the right to free speech. Thank God. Okay, so moving on. I think that the border situation and the immigration situation is easy to understand. I'm going to say real quick, the tradition or the history of Latin Americans, specifically Mexican Americans, coming into the United States to work, particularly in agriculture. In more recent years, more labor jobs, more construction jobs, food processing, which you could maybe call agriculture, dates back to when the United States took Japanese Americans and put them in internment camps. They were political prisoners. And so to fill the void, because they, by and large, had handled the agriculture on the West Coast, specifically California, to fill that void, the Mexican was invited into the United States for these jobs on temporary work visas, which were essentially seasonal. They would come, they would work, and then they'd go back to Mexico, and they would do it legally. Now, of course, you're always going to have a certain amount that aren't legal. You're always going to have a certain amount of immigration that isn't legal. But we can't blame people for enforcing laws. Let me just say it like this. What if somebody broke into your house in the middle of the night, but they weren't trying to steal anything? They just broke into your house. How would you feel about other people saying, well, they didn't take anything from you. They didn't assault you. They didn't rob you. They didn't vandalize anything. They just broke in. I think you'd say, well, that's fucking illegal. You can't do that. I mean, to put it simply, and again, I'm very sympathetic to people immigrating to the United States for a piece of the American dream. Like I said, Haiti, there's a lot of immigration into the Dominican Republic. Nearly all, there are situations where they're allowed to come in and work and go back to Haiti. And I'm not going to seek out who is here legally and illegally. I sympathize with them coming from a really horrible environment at the moment, particularly the capital, Port-au-Prince, just to work. But the Dominican Republic does not even have the same kind of asylum and immigration opportunities that the United States does. So, it's just, I hate to say it, but it really just shows the ignorance of most Americans. It shows the ignorance of most Americans. And if you have an argument or a rebuttal, I'd love to hear it. Leave it in the comments. Maybe there's something I'm missing. But I want there to be a vetting process. I don't want violent criminals. I don't want violent criminals coming into the United States. I don't care if they're overly educated. I don't even care if they speak English. They'll learn. If not, it'll be a little harder on them for them to live. I don't want drug dealers bringing in drugs to the United States, particularly fentanyl. But meth, heroin, cocaine, all of it comes in. But fentanyl is a huge problem, which is why Trump has also placed a tariff on China, putting pressure on them to stop the fentanyl from China coming into the United States through the southern border. Thank you, Trump. I think there's things that I would disagree with you on, but it ain't this. I am behind you 100% when it comes to stopping the drugs from coming into the United States, particularly fentanyl, of which mostly comes from China. China. That's not racist, by the way. The country's name is China, and fentanyl is coming from there. I think probably this video has been taken up by the border issue. There's other things I want to talk about. The tariffs. The tariffs on BRICS nations. I know that people think that next video. We're going to do next video. So please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Give me your opinion. Until next time.